Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 280. And now that episode 280 is done in the books, we've got a lot to talk about, because what you think you see isn't actually what you see. Or to go back to what we were told in Naruto's first series, way back in the early parts of part 1, Naruto, a ninja must always learn to see past deception. That is the core theme of this episode here, and really for the entire arc in of itself. So the episode opens up, we have Shamo and Yatsui, and you got that monk, and essentially they're trying to get the monk back to the hangar so he can get his wounds taken care of. And you have this scene where the monk is coming to grips with the fact that he knows that he's going to die. He knows his wounds are too severe for him to even be able to live, but what he agrees to do is he agrees to hold open the door in order to give the others an opportunity to escape. And that's really just his, dying breaths and everything. And essentially they decide to go outside in order to try and find Boruto, because Boruto is fighting against Kisuru Gankabuki, and they want to assist with Boruto because they come to the conclusion that Gankabuki might be the only way that they'll be able to escape from this current Squid Game situation that they find themselves in. So essentially, while this is going on, you have Boruto and he's confronting Kisuru, and Kisuru is playing up very heavily the fact that he's the one that Boruto's confronting, and Boruto's laying out all the evidence, and we as the audience, we're buying into the information in real time as we are hearing the information. However, the thing that we find out later on is that Kisuru wasn't communicating with Ouga. He was actually communicating with ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village. And so what we end up seeing is that as Boruto is chasing after Kisuru and they get into the brief skirmish that they get into, you have this moment where later on in the actual episode, you have Sarada and Mitsuki, they're chasing after a masked shinobi, and for a moment you're thinking they're going to close the gap on him. It's just a matter of when, not necessarily if. And you can tell from the way that the shinobi's running that, okay, the shinobi's been injured, but why aren't they just doing something to try and get away further? Well, what ends up happening is that Sarada and Mitsuki have to take cover because all these kunai come flying out of nowhere at them, and Sarada is able to take her kunai and then deflect the kunai that's thrown at her back at the people that's throwing it at Sarada and Mitsuki and them, and Sarada immediately puts her hands up ready to fight. And you have this scene where Sarada immediately recognizes the stance that one of the shinobi is using, and so Sarada lunges forward, and after Sarada gets thrown to the ground, Kawaki's like, wait, that's it? You're just surrendering? Because Sarada throws the kunai. Well, what we find out is that Sarada held back when she went through that exchange, and the reason why is she recognized these shinobi as being Konoha Ambu. And so what we find out is that the Ambu have actually been investigating the Kara organization. So we're seeing more of those links towards Boruto's manga, because as I talked about last week and as I talked about in the spoilers for the upcoming anime episodes, what we're seeing right now is directly linking to what we were told in Boruto's manga, which is that Sai and the Ambu have been hunting down Kara outer members using the Amado's intel, and they're trying to hunt down the outers, that way they can find more information on Code. This is why Sasuke is on Code's trail right now. And so what we end up seeing is that they begin sharing the intel that they have, and they reveal that Gankabuki Kisuru is essentially working undercover for them, and that they've sent Jonin after Jonin with them, looking into the information that Kisuru is trying to verify right now. However, none of them have actually returned. And so while all this is going on, Boruto ends up getting into that skirmish with Kisuru. Kisuru uses fire release in order to escape, and he begins separating the different members of Boruto's party. So Boruto, Yatsumi, Shamo, and that rogue outlaw from the Hidden Mist village. And Kisuru begins starting to try and pick them off one by one. And there are times where you see the fight taking place and it really becomes clear that we're in a situation where Kisuru is holding back, because instead of just going for the kill on Yatsumi, he just punches her in the gut. And that was your first sign right there that, like, if this was somebody that was a cold-hearted killer, why not just go ahead and take her out? Why hold back in the way that you did? And so what we end up seeing is that Yatsumi, she uses her brain for a second and she lures Kisuru into the water. She uses lightning release, and Kisuru basically tanks the attack. He gets annoyed. Boruto shows up, and you have a situation where Boruto and Kisuru, they end up leaving. And after Shamo uses his earth release in an attempt to restrain Kisuru, the scroll that he was carrying ends up falling onto the ground. Shamo ends up reading it, and that's when he discovers that Kisuru was actually working for the Hidden Leaf Village the entire time. This was all a mission, and the scene then shifts back over where you have Sarada and she's getting debriefed by the Ambu, and we find out that Sai's basically given them permission to share this information with Team 7. And you see Kawaki getting pissed off when he hears that they've been looking into the last remnant of Car, because he knows that that's a connection that's going to be going towards Code. We know based off the manga, Kawaki and Code, there's serious issues there. Well, what ends up happening is Boruto and Kisuru, Boruto continues trying to reach out to him. Shamo ends up showing up with the scroll, and Boruto has a moment where when Kisuru begins laughing, he thinks that Kisuru was laughing at Boruto and everyone else who died during this mission. Kisuru's actually laughing because he's figured out the truth behind this whole Squid Game situation that they're in. Essentially, this has all been a genjutsu. And so Kisuru, who gets revealed to be really talented at medical ninjutsu, ends up stabbing Boruto after an attack lands on Shamo and knocks Shamo to the brink of unconsciousness. And while Boruto's being concerned about him, Kisuru stabs Boruto, lays Boruto on the ground, begins using medical ninjutsu, and most importantly, he begins weaving the Yin Seal release in order to release Boruto from the genjutsu. And we see that Boruto has waken up inside of these healing chambers, and Boruto himself is able to get out. And as Boruto's looking around the medical facility, he sees a numerous amount of medical containers with the different people that he was in the Squid Games with, as well as other people as well. And so the episode ends off there with that information. Now, I will say this, it does kind of cheapen the stakes a little bit, at least for me, knowing that this was a genjutsu, but it also makes me curious to know what's going on, in the sense of that's a very elaborate genjutsu to a point where it looks very real to the people that's in it, to where none of them were able to realize that they were trapped inside of a genjutsu. So that's the thing that kind of has me, who is this skilled to pull off a genjutsu of this magnitude? And then the second question I have on this is, what is the purpose of keeping everybody in those containers? That's something that I'm not too sure on. Now, I know that this bar is very heavy from Squid Games. I've not seen Squid Games. I know I'm like the one person on the planet that's not actually watched it. As I've told you guys before, I don't watch a lot of television. I read more than I actually watch television, unless it's sports. So it's one of those things where I'm a little behind the loop on that one. So was this something that you actually see in Squid Games? Like, that threw me off. And if that is the case, that none of these people died, which it looks like that's actually what's going on here, how does that tie into the Squid Games concept? That's something I really want to know, because that's bugging me now, because I can really tell that they took inspiration from Battle Royale. I can see elements of that. I can see elements of Hunger Games. And I know people say that there's a lot of Squid Games in this, and the fact that I've not seen Squid Games and I can clearly see that they're borrowing something or inspiration from it is really bugging me, because I feel like there's an overarching message that is important to understand Squid Games in order to fully grasp. So I'm really going to be depending on you guys to kind of clear that aspect up for me. Now some of you guys feel when I start referencing stuff that is written in the data books or is written in the light novels that get referenced in the anime and manga, because just as say, a lot of you say, I don't particularly like reading. I don't particularly like watching a lot of television. So this is so interesting for me, man, that I did not know this is how that felt. So please clear that up for me in the comment section, man. I am depending on you guys. Save me. Those are my episode questions for you guys. But in the meantime, if you've not already checked out the Sasuke Wrestling Chapter 5 review, you want to click here for that because we uploaded that this morning. So you've got a double upload today. You got the review from earlier this morning, and then you got this review here.